Joe Gibbs Racing just witnessed another shock. The sponsorship speculation is a never-ending thing for Joe Gibbs. Before Kyle Busch and now Denny Hamlin, everything is revolving around sponsors with Joe Gibbs Racing. So stay with us on Racing Rush because we are going to tell you what Joe Gibbs has just revealed that shocked the entire NASCAR industry. But before we begin, do subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Everything got steamed up when Adam Stern of Sports Business Journal recently stated on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio that the contracts that Denny Hamlin and FedEx have with Joe Gibbs Racing are set to expire at the end of the 2023 racing season. When Denny Hamlin first started racing on NASCAR's Cup Series in 2005, he did it for Joe Gibbs Racing. 19 years later, he is about to begin another year of his contract. Hamlin's agreement with JGR is scheduled to come to an end at the end of the year 2023. In addition, the team's sponsorship agreement with FedEx is set to expire in 2023 and has not been renewed yet. As a result of both his on-track prowess and his job as co-owner of 23XI Racing, alongside Bubba Wallace and more recently, Tyler Reddick, Hamlin has emerged as one of the most prominent drivers in NASCAR over the course of the past few years. The driver, who is now 42 years old, has won at least 2 races in 7 of the last 8 seasons. His repeated triumphs at Crown Jewel events ensure that he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot in the near future. Hamlin expressed his desire to complete his career at JGR, saying, "Certainly I've always wanted to conclude my career with JGR," adding, and he is optimistic that that will be the case. 21 years later, in 2021, Hamlin joined Michael Jordan as a co-owner of 23XI Racing. Joe Gibbs Racing and the Toyota squad have developed a strong working relationship. The expansion of the team into a full-time competition began in 2022 with the signing of Kurt Busch. In the year 2023, Tyler Reddick will be moving into the driver's seat of the number 45 car. Hamlin does not believe that his role as an owner with 23XI played any effect in his decision to retire from full-time racing. To put it another way, it is highly likely that he will retire from JGR. Hamlin also said there'll be a moment where his focus will be more needed as a team owner than a driver, but it's going to be on his terms and when he wants it to happen, and when he thinks it needs to happen. However, he doesn't believe that. He does not anticipate that having ownership will hasten the process of his retirement. He believes that when the time comes for him to retire, it'll be a choice that he makes entirely on his own, regardless of how things are going with the racing team. In his 18 years of competition, Hamlin has collected 48 victories out of a total of 614 starts. He has not yet triumphed in a championship contest. After 15 seasons with JGR, Kyle Busch decided to part ways with the club lately. After Mars Inc. withdrew its support for the sport, they were unable to find a replacement sponsor. If we compare Hamlin's age to that of other drivers such as Kevin Harvick, who has won 23 races after turning 42, we see that Hamlin's age is not nearly as concerning. It's more important to maintain your competitive edge before experiencing that unexpected decline in performance. The topic has been broached by Hamlin, who stated on the podcast hosted by Dale Earnhardt Jr. that he does not want his performance to deteriorate to a point where he's unable to win every week. In addition, the driver of the number 11 car mentioned that he would like to win the race before it's over. Notably, Hamlin mentioned that he would like to retire with FedEx at Joe Gibbs Racing. However, if the sponsor did not extend, it may influence the path of the latter phases of his career. If the sponsorship were to change, he might be able to get a ride with 23XI Racing. On the other hand, the next phase of his career will almost certainly be defined by FedEx's commitment. It would seem that Denny Hamlin will remain with the team unless the sponsor decides to quit. But if Hamlin were to win the NASCAR Cup Series championship in 2023, for example, this would be irrelevant. In light of the fact that Joe Gibbs Racing and Kyle Busch have previously been through a tense negotiation process, it is to be hoped that this process will go without a hitch and that everyone will be on the same page moving ahead. This would have been the second difficult time for Joe Gibbs Racing regarding sponsorships after Kyle Busch left, after which Joe Gibbs started some deep conversation about his departure. Joe Gibbs Racing has been one of NASCAR's most powerful teams for a long time, and Busch has always been in charge of that group. The 37-year-old driver has won more than 200 races in his career, and most of them were in Toyota. When SiriusXM NASCAR Radio asked Gibbs about losing Busch, he gave a long answer that began with a list of all the things they did well together. Busch is the NASCAR driver with the most wins in the top level of the sport. This is a huge accomplishment. Joe Gibbs Racing was a big part of this because they helped him win multiple Cup Series titles. But Gibbs looked into the situation in depth when it became clear that Mars would leave NASCAR and leave the number 18 car with a huge sponsorship role. When they found out that Mars was going to leave, we worked on it for over a year. They just couldn't get things to work out, so they could sort of solve the problems they were having. They put in so much effort, there was a lot of work put into it. So it's just one of those sports things where they have to say, okay, we couldn't get that done, even though we tried our hardest. It sounds like Gibbs really wanted to make it work, but the problem of who would pay for it was too big. But you could say that if both sides really wanted to keep working together, they would have signed a one-year deal. Even though something ended this partnership, Gibbs had nothing but good things to say about Busch and his future. It's hard to understand how the sports business works, but that's just how negotiations work. One day, the whole NASCAR world will for sure know what really went behind the scenes. But Busch and Joe Gibbs Racing were not supposed to end up in this situation. Busch leaving Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota is a real shame, since he was the leader of the team and company for more than a decade. As was said above, this is not how the story was meant to end. Busch was supposed to retire with the organization that was built around him as a multi-time champion. He wasn't supposed to go to Richard Childress Racing, and the fact that he did shows that NASCAR has an even bigger problem. This isn't how NASCAR business should go. A two-time Cup Series winner has no reason to leave an organization because of a sponsorship, and not because of a contract. If the money was split fairly so the sponsorship wasn't needed as much, Busch would still be driving the number 18 car next season instead of Ty Gibbs, who is expected to take over the ride. Because of sponsorship, the best drivers might not get a chance to show what they can do. It shouldn't be a sport where the drivers with the biggest paychecks race against each other, because that's not at all like the stick and ball sports. Not only is that frustrating for the drivers, but it's also frustrating for fans of the sport, because the best drivers don't get the chance they deserve. Everyone needs to be happy with the next TV deal with NASCAR. Sure, both sides will ask for things that aren't possible, but that's not why Busch left Joe Gibbs Racing. If sponsorship is so important, it's because the sport's business model is broken. NASCAR's dream would be for teams to be able to hire the best drivers possible without having to worry so much about sponsorship. Motorsports are different from sports with sticks and balls, but they should be a lot easier. Why can't NASCAR do it if other sports can? Why does everything have to be dependent on sponsorship? Since it can be done in other sports, people think that money is the reason. If that doesn't happen, Busch will probably retire with Joe Gibbs Racing, just like Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, and Jeff Gordon did. Instead, a very successful partnership is almost over, which shouldn't be the case. What are your thoughts on Joe Gibbs Racing's sponsorship situation? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked today's video, then do check out more videos like this on our channel. Also, do subscribe to our channel and hit the like button for more updates.